All right, hello, ladies and gents. We are back with another episode of SoulCast. I am your host, Scott, aka Zhang, on the boards, of course. And then this episode, we're actually going to take a look at the other side of the coin for one of the characters, one of the main characters on the cast list. And we already did regular Pyrrha, so of course, time to do Omega. Talk about the evil version, I guess. So with that, I'm brought back on, a name and voice that, of course, all you guys know and love so well, and that is, of course, Partisan. What's going on, man?
Hey, and hello everybody tuning in. Good to be back.
Yeah. So, you've obviously graced a lot of, episodes. You've been on the Soulcast a couple of times.
Yep.
So I don't think we need to, do a backstory or anything. I know you didn't get a chance to go to Evo this year, although, to be fair, Soul Calibur was a side tournament officially. But anything else like on the agenda, or anything new and exciting going on before we start talking character strats?
Well, I haven't really been in any tournaments this year, unfortunately. It really sucks, but I'm definitely looking at Summer Jam, which is a maybe for now, and then of course NEC later on in the year. Those are the two big ones. There are a few other ones actually going on in Philly. I think I'll talk a bit about that at the end.
Okay.
Maybe just segue out, but what I will say, what's going on with me currently, I'm running a stream pretty frequently, usually on the weekends. So if you want to see some Caliber related stuff, talk with me and some of the members of the community that I associate with, come on by. The URL is twitch.tv/partisansc. If you follow me on Twitter or anything like that, I usually tweet or something like that before I stream. If not, I usually post it somewhere like in the 8am chat room or as a status or something like that. So yeah, just look out for that if you're interested. I do plan on doing some more specific stuff, like looking at matchups with different characters and things like that. So if you're looking to improve and you want somebody, I guess like myself, who can break that down for you, yeah, I don't want to put any words out there, but yeah, if you're into that kind of thing and want to learn a bit more about the game, by all means tune in. I'd love to help more people figure stuff out. And
now, is that something where you have like matches, like sets or whatever already arranged before you start streaming, or can people like hop on and say, "Hey, can I get some matches in with you guys?"
It depends on the day, really. Like I think last time I streamed, I just joined a room with LP and IRM, and then for a bit I wasn't playing. I was just watching them play, and then just talking with Great One and Malice, other community members, if you're not familiar. And yeah, eventually I jumped in and then just started playing. But yeah, sometimes it'll be organized sets, kind of planned in advance, and then sometimes it's just, hey, let's set up a room and just get whoever in here.
Now, when you say talk, do you mean just like you guys are shooting the shit, or are you actually like trying to break down the match? Both.
you sometimes it's a little bit more directed at the game. Most of the time, it's just casual conversation on top of the gameplay.
Gotcha. Because I'm curious if well, I mean, like I'm sure in the stream chat and stuff, if somebody asks a question that you guys answer it. But yeah, I'm wondering because I know that at least for the Tekken community, they've been, and of course with Street Fighter and the 2Ds, they do this as well. But some people put on streams and then they'll like you said, do the breakdowns and the help and whatnot.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering if for some people it might not be beneficial to watch two good players go at it, and then because it's usually like critiques, like people are like, he should have done this in this situation, but
yeah,
I think it helps a lot of people to see what's like the good stuff, like what they should be doing, like notice how he's doing this and this, and how he's catching them with yada yada, setting up whatever. So yeah, I didn't know, since obviously you're you and then the group that you roll around with are top players, especially on our continent. It's probably helps a lot of people to understand like what you guys are doing throughout the match. But yeah, we can of course like you said, chat about that later. So yeah, okay, yeah. If for those listening, if you're looking to get some some knowledge, you want to level up a little bit, check out that stream. So with that in mind, let's talk some Omega Pyrrha. Let's for all those Omega players who want to level up and learn a little bit more. So we've already done the episode with regular Pyrrha, and I'm trying to think. It wasn't Kinetic. Who the hell did I have? Zeph. Yes, yeah, Zeph. So I had him on. We talked about regular Pyrrha. Now I remember, a while back asking you, because I'm your standard noob who just kind of soaks stuff in but can't really apply it. And I asked, are the two characters, different enough to really warrant an extra episode? Like should it just be one episode and talk about both of them, and you made it pretty clear that no, there's Omega's separate. She's worth talking about by herself. So I want to start the conversation there because to me it's just all stabs in one case. Like that's all I'm seeing when I watch it. So like let's start with the main differences. Like how are you playing her different than regular Pyrrha?
The main fundamental differences between the characters. The way I see Pyrrha, she's a very, very strong poke character, and of course she also has the ability to punish things on block very well with the stab. She has, like I mentioned, her pokes are very, very good. She also has really good lows, or I should say a very good low in 1K. So she's very, she can poke very well, and she also has a mix-up game. Not like a knockdown low, really annoying type thing or anything, but she can just whittle down your life bar very fast if you're not blocking things right. And that 1K sneaks up on you very, very fast. With Omega, she doesn't have the speed with the lows. Like she has a 1K of her own, but it's linear, and I think Omega's is, let me check real quick. I want to say it's 23 frames with her 1K. It does really good damage. It beats the gut system, so that's a plus, but it's -2 on hit, whereas regular Pyrrha's is -1 on hit. So, and couple that with her, I think, I11 AA, she can really just keep forcing you to either block or make a guess to get out of that. So, Pyrrha's a very poke-heavy character with a decent mix-up game, and Pyrrha Omega is a lot more mids. So she has to find other ways to open you up, which brings another big difference in their guard damage. Pyrrha's guard damage is no sludge at all, but Pyrrha Omega's it comes up so often that it's really something that defines her character. She has just so many moves that break the gauge really fast, most notably her 4B, which is +2 on block. Really slow, linear, but it can be hard to step because it kind of realigns as the animation progresses. So it's easier to stay out of that range rather than attempt to step it. But yeah, +2 on block. That's probably her main mix-up generator. And like I mentioned before, regular Pyrrha is more like hit level mix-ups. Or yeah, regular Pyrrha, and Pyrrha Omega is more on block situations. So I land the 4B on block. What am I going to do? Am I going to do an interrupt to try and beat out what they're going to do? Am I going to go for a throw because they're blocking too much? Or am I going to backdash and try and bait out something that they're going to do? So a lot of situations like that with Pyrrha Omega, and I think that's really key in her gameplay.
Gotcha. And that actually that makes a lot of sense because I started off by saying stabs and 1Ks, but the first thing that at least that jumped out to me is you mentioned the differences technically speaking between the 1Ks, like the frame differences and whatnot.
Yeah.
But even the jump animation, for a lot of players, I know that matters. Like the fact that regular Pyrrha, she doesn't go anywhere, the move just comes out. Whereas a lot of players become acclimated to looking for a jumping animation, and then they react accordingly. So yeah, I know that there's all those little differences. That's it's interesting that it sounds like she's more of a block heavy character. So now, but she still has I would imagine with the stab that she's still really good on block, punishing.
Oh yes, definitely. She actually has that over regular Pyrrha. Not only does her stab do more damage, When you just frame it, I believe I can't remember if normal Pyrrhas does this, but Pyrrha Megas definitely it increases the range. So like say you're at like a tip range and then you do the stab. Sometimes the stab won't connect fully, like the attack throw part won't come out where it actually like goes into an animation.
Mm-hmm.
Like on tip range it'll just do the stab and like they get hit, no big deal. They don't fall down or anything.
Mm-hmm.
So when you just frame it, it'll increase that attack throw range and let you actually follow up from a further range with the 4 follow up, so allowing you to get the full 65 damage with the just frame, plus clean hit chance if you get the just frame, or the 55 or so without the just frame.
Now, when you say the just frame, are you talking about the attack throw portion of it, or actually doing
the first
2, 3,
the first
6
part?
B? Okay.
Yeah, the first part.
Gotcha. Okay. So real quick, just because obviously that's for newer players, I'm sure that's going to be one of the bigger issues. Hitting that or getting used to hitting that. Any like real tips or any suggestions on how to get the timing for that down?
It's really hard to put it into words, but if I had one tip to give, is just practice it. Just work on getting the motion down. You can get really consistent with it if you just practice and get like ingrain like the timing and the speed of the 2-3-6 motion into your mind, and just if you get that in your muscle memory, it becomes way more easier. So just practice it, and it becomes really simple.
Gotcha.
But like you won't get it like 100% of the time. Even I don't. Like I might be around like anywhere between 60 to 80 depending on what day it is.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's definitely easy to get down if you just do it a lot.
Gotcha. All right. Well, I guess let's. Is there anything more to her punishing game than that? Because I would imagine, obviously AAs. If you need something quicker than
actually,
stab.
Yeah, I'll go over a punishment game. It's very very important to her game. So
okay.
I guess I'll just start off with like each tools that she has at each frame. So starting with her fastest move, AA. Not much to be said here. Decent range. Does a bit more damage than regular Pyrrhas, I believe. I think. Let me bring it up real quick. Actually, never mind. It's not that important, but it does do more damage. It is slower than hers, but again, does more damage. And outside of punishment, it's a very, very strong tool for zoning and just step killing in general. After that, and AA was I-12. At I-13, you have standing K. Not much of a reason to use this since AA is faster. But at I-13, you also have her critical edge, which is insane amounts of damage. Let me bring up the exact amount. I want to say it's 90. Yeah, 90 damage. And I don't really throw it out at random, but it does include some invincibility frames. So if you're one of those players who just doesn't really care sometimes, it's not a bad move to just throw out if that fits your style. But
do you know what the window is for the invincibility?
The wiki says from frame 11 onwards. So say you're at I can't even do this equation in my head, but pretty much if you're close to neutral, like anywhere from like +2 to like -2, I think it's around that window you'd be able to just get away with it. And apparently it has tech crouch frames at, I guess, frame 10.
Why not?
Yeah, I mean, though it seems like, I guess that's one frame, but it doesn't really matter. It's so fast that you're likely not going to tech crouch. You're just going to interrupt. So
do you ever like use it in that aspect? Like you see something coming at you and you just like, to hell with it, I'm going to go right through it?
In very few situations, like there are some things that you can only punish with critical edge. Like I play Reptile a lot, and Aeon has a move 6A+B where it pushes out a lot, and the only thing you can do about it is CE punish. So sometimes, like when we played a while back, he would do this sometimes, and then just when I had meter, I was like, okay, I can get free damage here, and then you can punish it on block. It's not the easiest thing to do in that circumstance, but it's worth learning. Yeah, I mean it's 90 damage.
Yep.
And she builds meter fast, and I'll get into this later, but her brave edges aren't exactly the strongest, so she can hold on to meter for a really, really long time. So it's good to just burn it whenever you can, especially if you're getting something like 90 damage.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
So yeah, whiff punishing is good with it, though there are better options since you can get more damage depending on what has whiffed and how you have caused the move to whiff. But again, you can't really say anything bad about 90 damage. But
yeah, of course.
yeah. But moving on, at 14 frames, of course, we have the stab. Right, so that's going to be your go-to punish. Obviously, very bad on block, as it should be. I want to say at least minus 18, if not exactly minus 18. Let me just look real quick. Yeah, so not a move you're going to be wanting to just throw out at random. I mean, if you're playing people who just attack 100% of the time, I mean, go for it. Yeah. But most people aren't going to be doing that. So, yeah, stick to block punishing with it. Again, really good damage. If you get the just frame, it does have a clean hit. So I think that it goes up to like 73, somewhere between 70 and 73. Mm-hmm. But if you get the just frame, 65 damage. And if you get the normal follow-up without the just frame, 55 damage. And the cool thing about this move is that if you do get the follow-up, it is capable of wall splatting as well as a ring out. So it opens up to big wall combo damage, and of course ring outs are a one-hit kill, so that's a very good option. But we'll get into ring outs a bit more later, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah. Something else worth mentioning about the stab is that when you're in crouch, so say you duck, throw, or block a 2K, the stab actually comes out in 13 frames, so 1 frame faster than the I-14 from standing. So it's good to keep that in mind.
Interesting. So does it, when you're crouching, then I would presume that the game just asks you to do the 3-6 and not the 2. So
yeah, something like that. Yeah, okay. I'm not too sure how it works technically, but all I know is that it's faster, and I guess it just, for some reason, when you do the wave dash in the crouch, it just makes it faster. I'm not sure if that applies to the other moves. Maybe I'll have to try that out later. I've never actually considered that because it only really matters for the stab. So.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, that's. Yeah. I'm wondering if that's what they're doing, because usually, like, when you see, is it I-13 or is it like, no, it would be what, I-11, right? And then you have the I-12, and then you have the inputs. I don't know. Does the wiki does it distinguish between that? Like, it doesn't.
I don't think
add.
So, no.
No, it doesn't. Okay.
No, I don't think it goes that.
Because I know, like, for Tekken, because you have wave dashes and crouch dashes all over the place. Well, in Street Fighter 2, with all the showroom motions and whatnot, they typically include they separate the directional inputs from the actual button. But yeah, that'd be interesting, because if it's actually, like, for some reason when you're in crouch, the move itself comes out faster, that's kind of confusing. Anyway, moving on.
Okay, so yeah, that was 14 frames. I can also mention that there's BB, of course. So say there's a punish that's really, really tight, and you don't want to risk the stab getting blocked. That can come up quite a bit. There are a lot of moves with really low block stun, or really high. I can't remember which one I want to call that, but I'm sure most of you will know what I'm talking about. So yeah, BB is a good alternative to stab. It has good range. Also does 30 damage, which is a raw stab without the follow-up. So not bad. Decent plus frames on hit. And also for I-14, there is 3K, which I can't remember if there are too many reasons to use this, but I think it's better to mention it as an interrupt rather than a punish, because a kick mid is very good against most auto GIs in this game, so very good option there. But yeah, that's I-14. For I-15, this is where she starts getting her crazy damage if you can input it fast enough. This is where DNSB comes into play, and that's the that's the problem move for most people. I won't really.
So what? Okay, you'll have to forgive my ignorance. DNS.
Yeah. Double nemesis step. The normal stab is nemesis step B, and then DNS is just the double 2-3-6 motion.
Okay.
Yeah.
I never Man, I need to start going through these move lists more. I completely forgot she had the double crouch dash. Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a just frame version to that one too?
Only for like you land the stab, then the follow up.
Oh, okay.
There's no just frame. Like just the regular. But you can do it at different speeds. The fastest, of course, is I-15, and that's a really that can be a really tight buffer depending on when you do it.
Mm-hmm.
But again, you practice it and it becomes fairly easy. So just do that if you want to try and get it faster. You need to do it pretty fast for a lot of various combos, but we're talking about punishment right now, so we'll get into that later. Like I've said for pretty much everything else in this podcast so far. But yeah, DNSB, very, very strong punish. Probably her go-to whiff punishment if you train yourself to do it properly. On block, the move is -14, so depending on who you're fighting, that can be bad news. Like if you're fighting Pyrrha, that's a stab on her end at mid-range to close range. I think at tip range it can whiff, so you'd have to space it very carefully, but for most ranges it's punishable to characters that are capable of punishing. It's also a very strong zoning tool against those who cannot punish. I mean, it's a decently ranged vertical, so it'll catch backdashes at your plus frames, or if you just sniff one out. Yeah, but a lot of damage if you get the just frame, which also has a clean hit chance, like the stab. It does 82 damage, so very, very strong move. It's also a very crucial part of her move list in regards to combos and, yeah, pretty much just combos, punishment, and a lot of just in spacing in general, I'd say. But again, just throwing it out there against some characters can be bad news. Some can't punish it, so yeah, go wild with it in those matchups. But it can be stepped, and that can be bad news depending on your character's punish. She does kind of move. She moves so forward that when you step it, sometimes your punish will whiff, so it's really weird. But I know some characters punish with different things, so that's not always the case. But also at I-15, she has 236K, which is not really a talked about move, but more recently I've been looking at it and kind of remembering it. Not the greatest move, but it's a very decent ring out tool. The only problem with it is that it's a high, but at I-15, and if you punish a whiff or something like that, you can get a very decent ring out. It is -14 on block, and it doesn't have push out, so it is punishable. But yeah, that ring out is very good, decently ranged for what it is and how fast the move is. And if you don't get a ring out, it does combo into DNSB and a few other things, but DNSB is the optimal one.
Yeah, and the move itself just looks like it goes a lot farther than you would think it.
Oh yeah,
but she
yeah,
takes
really
like
good.
this weird step glide forward when she does it. So weird. All right.
Yeah, if that move was a mid, it would be absolutely ridiculous. It would be so good. But yeah, it's balanced out by the fact that it's a high. Very good move. I think that's all for I-15. There isn't too much after this. But yeah, also for I-15, actually, there is 66K, which is a launcher. Not too much of a reason to punish with this. Better as a whiff punish or something like that. Usually with 33K or what's the opposite, 99K. But yeah, decent tool. -15 on block for the 6/6 version, and then the 8-way run 3 or 9 version, it's only -13, so pretty safe. Opens up about 55% or percent. I'm playing too many Injustice or something.
No, what about like your more traditional launchers like 3B and stuff? Are you even like doing? Is it even worth it, or just are other options better?
Depending on the character you're facing, certain launchers are very good. Like I just mentioned, the 66K, not so good because it's -15, but the other version, the 3/3 and the 9/9 version, since it's only -13, that's a pretty minimal risk. And yeah, very good launcher. Very fast from step, so like you step in obvious vertical. You can input that really easily because you're already in 8-way run usually, so easy to do that. Some characters can't punish the -13 very hard. Like some of the slower characters might only be able to get like a standing K or something like that. So really, it's like trading the risk of, okay, I'll eat, I think they only do around like 15 damage or something like that for a potential 55 or more if you want to blow CE and do a fancy combo, but that's usually not that necessary.
Gotcha.
But in terms of the other launchers, her 3B is actually, in my opinion, maybe one of the worst launchers in the game.
Really?
Yeah, it's like there's nothing really special. Like it's not bad if you land it, but it's -18 on block. And if you look at most other characters' 3Bs, they're usually around 15 or 16.
Mhm.
But hers itself is just launch punishable and only gives like 55 damage that these other launchers also give. So really nothing spectacular about this move. It does have decent guard damage, but considering the other tools she has, not too good. The one good thing about it on Oki is that usually what you want to do is once they're knocked down, you want to set up a 6-6B or until they stop blocking it or getting hit by it.
Drop my controller there.
But yeah, so 6-6B is actually one of the other good launchers, but I'll get back to that in a sec. On Oki, you want to be setting up, trying to land those moves until they either get up standing or just block it or get hit by it. And once they start rolling the other side, 3B will actually catch that side like very consistently, but it's a risk if they get up and block it, assuming they can punish it hard at -18. But yeah, so not the greatest move in terms
I
of.
find it funny that you mentioned the guard damage because typically moves that are launch punishable are not really the ones you want to use for guard.
Oh yeah, exactly.
But
I think at some ranges the pushback can cause problems for characters, so you can kind of be pseudo safe with that, but nothing you want to really rely on just doing since they're, like I said, better tools for building guard damage. But yeah, other launchers, I mentioned 6-6B, a staple in the series really since the beginning. So Fitia move, a rather slow move, but very very good on hit and on block. Where's the exact frame data? -2 on block, so it allows you to press buttons, move around. After that, it does push back quite a bit, so it's a very good spacing tool as well. Breaks in 9. Like I said, it is pretty slow at 26 frames, so not the most reliable like back step catcher or something like that, but it is still a very good tool. It kind of locks people down in place if they like to move around and you guess that they haven't sidestepped, or you realign yourself with them and then do like a 6-6B. It allows you to do a lot on block. And of course on hit, the damage is pretty good. I forget the exact amount for just the standard DNSB follow-up, but she has a lot of options that she can do. The one I usually do nowadays is 6-6B 4-4B plus K. It gives a hard knockdown, and it presents a really interesting situation because with the hard knockdown, they can't tech in any direction. They just can get up and block or just stay on the ground. So if they tech, you can do a 4B, which is the +2 good guard damage vertical that I mentioned earlier. And then they're locked down even more, and you can continue running another block mix-up or whatever you want to call that off of the 4B. Or if they stay on the ground, there's a number of options that you can do as well. If I remember right, 1K will catch all roll attempts. 3B will do the same. There's a bunch of moves. I wrote this down somewhere. I might link it or reference it later, but okay. Yeah, it's a really interesting situation you can set up there for sacrificing a little bit of damage. You can also do 6-6B delayed 4A CE into DNSB for, I think it's around 90 or 100. I can't remember. But a very good way to close out matches if you know you can kill with it. And yeah, the other one was just the DNSB, and that's basically the staple that you do if you just want to go for damage and or ring out. It's a fairly simple concept, just launcher, DNSB, very easy.
It's not now. You can't get like the just frame in a juggle, right? It's
Oh
just
no, no.
stab.
I don't want to say I wish you could, but
Yeah, that'd be pretty ridiculous. But I just figured I'd clarify,
yeah.
make sure I'm not just being really bad.
Yeah, the follow-ups are not possible on any launch.
Okay,
Only on certain stuns and uh, excuse me, wall splats.
gotcha. Okay, so the next thing I do want to ask about, just because you had mentioned it, how she's a block heavy character, like that's how she sets up her game, and you just mentioned 4B.
Yep.
Now, I guess there's a two part to this question. One, kind of ties in with the punishing thing. If you get a post block, regardless of what you do, are you usually looking to create whiffs or create counter hits?
It's usually a bit of both. It's like I said, I think I kind of mentioned this. I like to think of it as like a mind game generator,
Oh, okay.
right? So it all depends on what your opponent's doing at the time. So if they say it's a really defensive player, they're like, oh, plus frames, let's just block here. Sometimes I'll just do 4B, recognize that they just want to block, do 4B again, do 4B again, and then before you know it, they're blinking. And you can play around with stuff like that. Another good one to do if they're a defensive player is just 4B and then just go for a throw. Because not only does that punish them for just blocking, it'll also punish people who want to do like an option select just guard to beat out like a 2-way or whatever fast option you want to interrupt with. So there's that. And then it makes them antsy and want to press buttons because like, a throw's coming. Let's do a 2-way to beat it out. And then that opens up some counter hit potential. But besides that, you can do 4B like back step, side step, and then if you recognize what they're doing after that, you can adjust what you're doing accordingly. And it just opens up a lot of interesting situations that are heavily in her favor against most of the cast. So I think you can actually do 4B2A, and if you do it on the as fast as you can, most characters, if not all of them, can't backdash afterwards. So it's a really, really good way to lock down your opponents.
Gotcha. All right. Well, I guess then the second part of that question, which of course would sort of answer what to do, because you mentioned how you can depends a lot on what your opponent's doing. But the second part of that question is, aside from 4B, like what other moves does she have that that set up that that block game that you're talking? Or is it all mostly 4B?
It's like 4B is the one you want to do just because it's like +2 is definitely very good for her, and it leaves you up close, so that's really good. But there are some situations where you actually might not want to be close to the character and you want to space them out. And the moves that are good for that same type of situation, I mentioned AA earlier. Her AA is very good for just throwing out there, and sometimes depending on how you use it, I like to use it as something they can run into. So like there'll be times where I'll dash in AA and they might be moving around at mid range or something like that, or they may be trying to approach, and I'll just have backstepped them down in AA, anticipating that they move forward. So you can use it like that. The ones that actually get blocked more frequently, BB's a staple. That's been in the game forever. It's always a good move to move around after. It's kind of ridiculous how versatile the move is. I actually don't use it too much. I probably should, but it's a very, very good move. Allows you to do plenty afterwards. Besides that, there is 2B is actually a decent one. Since it has the follow-up stab, which is heavily punishable at -20, people will want to usually freeze up. Since it's a string, they'll be like, oh, okay, the stab might be coming, so let's block. So it opens up a mind game where it's like, okay, are they going to try and interrupt me for doing whatever afterwards? Or are they just going to block? What can I do there? And then, so you can do like 2B, 2A to try and beat them out. You can do 2B, throw if they want to try and just guard, or they're just like, I really don't want to get hit by that stab. So you can play around with stuff like that. Besides that, there is I'm just scrolling down the wiki here. 4B, we already talked about. 6K is a very good one. Good guard damage, pushes back quite a bit, so it allows you to move around a little bit. It is -8, so you can be hit for that, but again, the pushback makes it so that you can kind of get a little bit of leeway in what you want to do. And yeah, that one's really good. 2K can set up a little bit just in that the fact that it's minus, so people minus on hit and on block, I guess. But people will be like, okay, -2, let's attack here. So you can play around with that. If they want to interrupt you and do like a 2-way afterwards, you can do a jump attack. You can do the RCC, the recover, crouch, cancel, or whatever, and do like A+B if you really want to get fancy, and then GI the 2-way. But you can. She also has really good movement, so you can backdash after it, and then if they whiff something, do a stab, something like that. Pretty simple stuff. Her Wild Rising K is also very good for that. It's -2, pushes back quite a bit, so it's kind of like the same situation as 6XB on a lesser scale, more like 6K, but way closer to neutral and block. Also, this move also does really good guard damage as well, breaking in 15. Not the best damage on hit, but it is a knockdown. 3A+B is pretty decent. Doesn't push back too much. You can't do that much since it's -6 on block. But it does heavy guard damage and tech crouches. And you can kind of sidestep and do other stuff. And it does have decent range, so you can kind of create the space you need to move around and stuff. So it's good for that as well.
Gotcha. So it sounds like a lot of it is using kind of the moves that you start out with, like the 4B, and then just kind of sprinkling in these other moves, but the heavy usage will come from the 4B.
Oh yeah, definitely. If you're in range, 4B is definitely the one to go with. Against some slower characters, you can kind of opt out for moves that might be faster, but they're not going to be as good on block. But since they're slower, you can afford to, deal with being at like -2 or something like that. Gotcha. Since they can't really threaten you until like -16 or something like that. Like say for Astaroth, even though you can. I was talking about this recently with another Omega player. Shoutouts to Holy Carp, if you're listening. But yeah, 4B is definitely good against slower characters, but again, you have that leeway to use other moves. So, continuing down the list, 6XB, we already talked about this one. 4-4A is actually pretty decent for this. It is very slow, but it's -4 on block and has some weird properties with it, just in the way she moves. 1-1A is actually a move I haven't really talked about. It's very slow for a low, but it's also only -10 on block, so like nobody can really punish it. And it does have a threat of a follow-up, so you can play off that as well. But it is +2 on hit. So if you can't block it on reaction, and you realize this, you can get away with this move quite a bit. And it does, since it's a horizontal, it will catch step, so a pretty decent tool as well. Besides that, another block situation move, I guess 2-2K or 8-8K. It's pretty good. Very fast 8-way run move. Pretty decent on block. Nowhere near punishable, if I remember right. What is it? Yeah, only -6. And it's +4 on hit. So that's a good move. And I think the last one really is DNSK, or 236K. 0 on block. Decent range. Tech crouches for a long time, so it's a decent get-in tool against people who might be zoning with hides or something like that. Able to catch step. It is steppable in some situations, but as far as I've tested, which I'll admit isn't too much, it's pretty difficult to do consistently. But it is rather slow at I-35, so some people may be able to just guard it, but in my experience, that's just not the case. So, yeah. She has a lot of tools for setting up all kinds of situations like this, so that's a huge part of her game. Really fun.
All right. So okay. So even though she has a lot of the tools, you still want to mainly use the 4B though, or
I'd say it's good to mix it up, just because if you get too predictable with the 4B, obviously it's a slow move, right? So people will just go crazy on you and maybe just keep interrupting. So it's good to mix it up and use the different moves. But definitely 4B is probably the best one she has.
Okay. And then a lot of what you're doing after those blocks is going to be dictated by what your opponent's doing.
Yeah, how they react and what kind of player they are. Yeah, like if they're
Gotcha.
aggressive, they want to press buttons, fishing for whiffs or counter hits. And then if they're the defensive type and just want to block and wait it out, or move around, then either throw them for blocking or try and beat their movement with whatever move that you can for what type of movement they're doing.
All right. So I did want to ask, just you kind of mentioned it about we'll get to it later
Oh yeah.
section, but I did want to ask, about the combos that you were
Okay.
talking about, because you said, like her combo potential, it sounded like the DNSB was kind of the core of that. But
Yeah.
like I guess just kind of walk us through that, like explain that that combo potential and like where it's coming from.
Okay. Like I kind of mentioned earlier, off of most of the launchers, that's going to be the standard follow up. Does the most damage, provides a ring out for most of them. Yeah, pretty simple stuff. On a wall splat, it can be a follow up. Well, since we're talking about combos, we'll get into that a bit later. But yeah, most of the launchers, it will be the go-to follow-up off of certain stuns. It actually has a new property in this game. DNSB was formerly known as TASB or Twin Angel Step B.
Mm-hmm.
And in this game, it hits this weird grounded state where it's like you're just about hitting the ground, but not quite grounded yet. And it actually hits some rolls, usually a back roll. So it allows you to hit them in this state as opposed to in the other games where you could not do this. So off of some stuns like While Rising B, 4B on hit, counter hit 6K, and things like that, you can actually hit them while they're on the ground. They'll kind of roll back quite a bit. And there are other ones where they're not stunned, but they're knocked down, and it's kind of like that. They fall on their back and like their feet are up in the air. And there's this tiny window for a lot of moves. I'll mention them in a sec, and you can combo into DNSB after this, and it's usually pretty good damage in most of those situations. The moves are. Let me just go down the list. Counter hit 4AB. You'll be able to get this. Actually, no, that's another stun. Never mind. That would be before this category.
Okay.
But it kind of fits in with them just in the fact that it's like that smaller window where you have to do it. What are the ones? Oh, yeah, 2-2B or 8-8B. That's a big one. That's a pretty tight window, but it's like 70 damage, so it's a really good way to use or way to combo after that move. Can be tough, but again, if you practice it, it becomes easy enough. I could have swore there were more. I guess. Hang on. 2-2B. Yeah, I guess that's the only one with that stun. But yeah, it's going to be the standard off of like pretty much every launcher if you just want to go for straight damage. Or off of those weird ground stuns like While Rising B, counter at 4AB, stuff like that. And then I guess in some situations that you get like the back turn G, usually off of like 3-3B, and then you turn around and then do DNSB. Or CE into DNSB, which is probably one of the harder ones to link. But yeah, so it's a pretty standard combo ender for a lot of her tools. I think that's what she's designed around. So
Gotcha. Now it looks like it gives you sort of a little like what's the best word for it? Like not a pop-up situation, but like it looks like it puts them in the air for long enough that you can get a decent Oki situation after it, in addition to the damage.
It depends. It depends on the launcher.
Okay.
6-6B, since it launches them so high, in a DNSB, they can usually just air control as far away from you as possible.
So you just go flying across the screen.
Yeah, so her Oki is pretty weak, I'd say. Like, if your opponent's capable of getting past 6-6B, her Oki is considerably weakened. off of that. But so she has to like convert to doing just like run up like 2K and just trying to annoy you to stand up and take like a throw mid mix up or something like that.
Mm.
But she doesn't have a lot of very safe like brainless Oki tools like some other character. Well, I shouldn't say brainless, just options that cover everything, I guess. I just don't want to use that word, but that's basically the exact same thing.
The option selects and
Yeah,
whatnot.
it just basically shuts you down. So like moves like Pyrrha's 4K, which just hits grounded. You'll block standing, tracks a little bit, so it'll catch rolls as well. Pyrrha Omega doesn't really have that outside of like 2K, which is not as good because if you block it, obviously it's not the best situation. Like it's only -14, so some characters will only be able to get a decent punish. But considering you can get Pyrrha's 4K blocked, or some characters have some like like safe ground hitting vertical that tracks pretty decently. It's just
Now
it's not as easy.
you mentioned earlier how at least off of the 6-6B that you like to do the 4-4B plus K.
Yes.
Now it looks like a lot of these, at least the couple I just randomly tested here, like Wall Rising B and 4AB. I mean, it looks like the 4-4B also connect, or B plus K also connects off of those. Now, are you, at least for you personally, are you typically doing the 4-4B plus K, or do you normally still, outside of the 6-6B, stick with DNSB as well?
The thing with that is the only reason why it gives the hard knockdown off the 6-6B is because they're so high in the air that when it hits, when 4-4B plus K hits in midair, it gives that hard knockdown. But if they're already like near the ground or in that stun state from like counter 4A plus B or something like that, it's not going to give that same knockdown. The Oki isn't so bad, but it's not the hard knockdown. So
okay.
Yeah, that's the crucial part right there. But again, it's not terrible, but it's not the same situation.
All right then. All right, guess that answers that question.
Yeah.
No, wrong thing. Yeah, not happening. Okay, cool. Okay, so I mean, is that the end then of like the combo potential?
Of,
then it's just the DNSB, or is there like other tricky stuff? And I know that you also started to talk about walls too, which if you wanted to segue into that too, we can.
I'll mention first before I get to walls and stuff like that. What was it? A lot of the DNSB enders, there are a lot of moves you can use in its place. Like say you aren't confident with the DNSB or something like that, and like say you're in a high pressure situation, you're like, oh man, if I get this kill, I win a tournament or something like that, and you just want guaranteed damage. 4-4B plus K will hit in a lot of places that DNSB will when it's that stun where they kind of hold their stomach and then fall down. I don't know how to describe that, but it kind of looks like that. It's like off of Wall Rising B, off of 4B, off of counter 4A plus B, or 4AB, my bad, and a few other things if I remember right. But there's that. There's also 2B plus K BBB, which is not so much damage, but it leaves them really close to you, so you can do some interesting stuff with that. Aside from that, you can also do 4-4K, which if you're a really turtley player, it kicks them back really far and looks awesome when you do that move. There isn't much of a purpose with that move, but it looks awesome, so I wish I could use it more. But yeah, it's only really good if you just want to kick your opponent to the other side of the ground while they're on the ground, and it just sends them flying. So there's that. You can do like a 3B. There's a lot of options, but pretty much DNSB is the go-to one. There are very select situations where you'll want to use the other ones.
All right. Well, then I guess let's talk about the walls then. Before we do like the like the straight up wall splats. I know that you mentioned earlier how you can get certain wall splats off of like juggles and stuff. Like I think if I remember correctly, if you do the DNSB off of like I don't know, like a 6-6B, I think you said it gives you like a small follow up, right? Or can like a wall splat, or is that, did I mishear that?
Like if you do 6-6B DNSB, there won't be a wall splat.
Okay.
6-6B itself can wall splat, but if you do any, like if you get any wall splat, it's going to be from either stab or a launch. Basically, those are the
Okay.
2 ways to get them. But yeah, um, with her wall splats, I guess we can go into that. Does that work?
Oh yeah, yeah. Go.
Okay.
Sorry, I thought that was, yeah, didn't
All right.
realize that was a question. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. With the wall splats, she has a lot of tools to get them. The strongest one is probably just the stab and the just frame follow up. If you get the normal follow up, it's not bad at all. But as far as I can tell, the just frame one gives you like a tiny bit more advantage, so you can get a bit more leeway with your execution, which really shouldn't matter. But you can't complain about having like a few extra frames to input something, so that's always good. And of course, it does more damage. But yeah, say you get like a 236B plus a follow up. That's one of her strongest wall splats. All of her launchers wall splat 66B, 33K, 66K, wall rising B plus K, and 44B. There are a few other ones, but those are the big ones pretty much. But yeah, once you land most of those, you can usually get a second stab or a 2B into the stab, which is a little bit more damage. But the thing that's so good about the stab is that just the amount of advantage you get off the wall spot allows you to like realign yourself with the wall, so you can get more damaging combos and not mess up the stab. The thing is, when she does the stab, it's this weird angle where like she'll hit you, but like it sends you in a sort of diagonal direction. So like if you do the second stab, it'll be really messed up after you land that one. Usually two are good, but if you go after that, it might mess up. And it's also worth mentioning that if you do a stab, the stab plus follow into wall splat, and then you get another stab without the follow up, in some circumstances, I forget exactly what they are. I think it's back turn or something like that. But in any case, the stab will hit them, but like they won't be affected. It'll just act like the attack throw won't come out. Like your character will be doing it, but they will just come out of it untouched besides the damage. So you're basically at like minus 90 or something worse. Like they just have ages to hit you. And yeah, so practice those wall combos if you don't want that to happen, because
But you still take. They still take damage.
they take the damage, yeah, but like they don't. But your character goes into the full attack throw, but they're not affected by it. So it's a really weird glitch. I forget
Wow.
the details of it, but I think it's been around in the series forever. It's something about like the same attack throw not being able to happen twice in one combo or something like that.
Well, I do remember there, like way back in the day, at least, just because it's the only caliber I really put time into, or the only other caliber is the SC2. I know, that was the main reason that Lizard Man was banned. He just keep doing his throw, like he glitched out his attack.
Oh yeah.
Do it again. Anyway, but yeah, that's just nonsense we're talking about that. This is about, so, okay, so you got this glitch you want to watch out for.
Yeah. Practice up on those wall combos, and it's actually pretty easy to avoid, so no big deal. And unless like I'll be honest, most Omega players there aren't, or that didn't sound right. Most most of the time, people don't play Omega players enough to really recognize this glitch, so they'll just kind of stare and be like, "What the hell's happening here?" and not really pick up on the situation. But even then, they might at least launch you or something, as opposed to hitting you with like 7 unblockables or like canceling them and basically just doing whatever they want. But yeah, just watch out for that. It's a pretty awful situation.
Duly noted. All aspiring Omega players are writing that down. Okay, got to practice that.
But yeah,
get unblockables for free.
Exactly. But for wall splats, she gets a lot of damage off of these. Like you're looking anywhere, but like it averages out to probably at least 100 damage if you get like a decent angled wall splat. So you can also do like stab follow up into 66B plus K A B G DNSB or CE into DNSB, and that's one of her most damaging ones. I forget the exact amount. I'm pretty sure it's around either 130 or 120. So really, really good damage. Kind of hard to do if you're not used to doing it, but like I've said many times, if you practice it, you'll get the hang of it. So there's that. A even easier one, well, not easier, but a pretty standard one is just stab, stab, DNSB. So like little stab, huge stab. For those who don't know the names, there's that. Um, and basically, it's really simple. You'll want to go for both of those combos pretty much. You can do stab, 2B, B follow up, which is the stab, and then you can brave edge the second one or do a third 2B, B 4. So it's not too complicated, but there's a lot of stuff you can do if you play around with the different options. But yeah, very very good damage at the wall, so very important to Omega players.
Now, I guess kind of related to that, you mentioned it a little bit, mostly in like the range of moves, but like ring outs. Yeah. I know you mentioned like 236B or 236K. Has some decent range, ring out range on it, and then ending, a juggle with DNSB can be very fruitful for a ring out. Now, like just generally speaking, like out in the open, do you find yourself able to get ring outs pretty reasonably, or is it
like I wouldn't say it's like a huge part of her game, but she definitely has strong options to get ring outs.
Okay, so outside of the stuff that I just mentioned, like are there anything that we haven't talked about that's important for that, or that you should definitely be incorporating into your game?
I'll go over for like most of the situational ones. Like for forward ring out, she has a ton of options. That's probably her most strong direction. For forward, she has pretty much any launcher in a DNSB is a forward ring out, anywhere from like mid to close to the ring, just because they won't be able to air control. Excuse me. There's also counter hit 4AB, a very good step killing tool if they like to move around a lot. That'll ring out for quite a distance, and it's also an easy enough follow up after a guard break. And the funny thing about that actually is that off of most of her breaks, you can actually align yourself to ensure that 4AB rings out. So like say you're like, okay, this may not work after the guard break. You'll just do a sidestep right and then do the 4AB and they'll ring out perfectly. So that's a very good tool. Again, mostly only on counter hit though, and that move is pretty unsafe on block. I think it's about -18 or something like that, so launch punishable for most of the cast. Aside from that, there's 3A plus B / 66A plus B. Very good forward ring out tool. Tech crouches, which is probably like so someone's back's to the edge or something like that, and they go for a throw, and you're doing this move. And you can do it into itself, so if they try and throw you or do a high after it, you can do it again, go for the ring out. So that's a very solid tool for forward ring outs. I already mentioned 236K. DNSK also rings out. Usually forward, but with a tiny angle to one direction. And I think that's most of it. Yeah, and I think there's one more I'm forgetting.
Yeah, I wish I could help you.
I guess I'll just throw in 2-2 and 8-8A. Those can ring out a little bit. Not the best, but decent, I guess. So there's that. And for reverse ring out, she has 3-3B, the classic, just launcher overhead, which combos into the hip smash or whatever it's called. Everyone else might know it as the ass attack, basically. So there's that. That's crazy range. Usually, it's pretty funny to see. So there's that. Her back throw rings out reverse. I can't really imagine how to set that up, but it's worth noting, I guess. And aside from that, I guess the only other one is really 66B plus KAB, which is pretty much the same as 33B, but with a string attached in front of it, which is counter hit confirmable, I should add. But yeah. Most of the ring outs are going to be coming from the front.
All right. Well, not to derail the current topic too much, but just because the guard break got me game.
Oh yeah.
And you mentioned CE, got me kind of thinking about it. A lot of what we're talking, actually, pretty much everything we've talked about so far, aside from the occasional CE that you've mentioned, has not involved meter
Yeah.
at all. So I did want to ask about that because you know made a comment earlier about how her brave edges aren't really all that good.
Yeah.
So it sounds so. I guess just kind of a random or not random, but generalized question: is it for the most part, are you just saving that for CEs and I guess maybe the occasional GI, or is it? I mean, are there any situations where you would use her brave edges?
The thing with her brave edges is they're not the greatest. She doesn't really need them, but they're not. It's not to say that they're bad by any means. Her 6B brave edge, while just guardable if they're prepared, it's pretty tough if you haven't practiced it. It sneaks up on you fast. Um, the move itself is plus 11 on block, so you really can't go wrong with that. Um, it's a forward ring out as well. Knocks down on hit, decent damage, clean hits as well. Breaks in 10. If you actually hit them with the 6B, 6B has its own follow up normally, which is just 6BB, and it's not a natural combo. It will on counter hit. It does combo in the CE. Kind of hard to link off of it on its own. There are a few stun situations where you can, but I guess we'll touch on that a bit later. But yeah, 6B Brave Edge is not a natural combo. It is a counter hit combo, but if you do hit them with the first 6B, the follow up will be blocked, and they cannot just guard or GI it. So it's a guaranteed plus 11 if you want to punish, say, a I13 or a minus 13 rather move and be at plus 11 for like a throw mix up or something like that. Her second Brave Edge, 2B Brave Edge, is actually very good in my opinion. It's again, it's that like the down shield into the in a DNSB pretty much. And the thing with this is that it's very excuse me, very hit confirmable. You just have to like if you practice it enough, it's very easy to recognize when you'll get that counter hit, and then you can just tap the Brave Edge button or whatever you want to call it, and then you'll get that big damage. And that does huge damage at 94 with the just frame. So a very very strong tool. She doesn't really need it since she has so many strong counter hit tools already, but definitely something to threaten with for sure. And again, only minus 14 like DNSB, so some characters not able to punish, and of course some will be able to punish it pretty hard as well. Yeah, basically those are the two Brave Edges, the 6B Brave Edge and the 2B or Full Crouch 1B, which are identical as far as I know.
So she just has the two?
Yeah.
That's it? Oh, wow. Okay.
That's probably why most people say, like, yeah, her Brave Edges aren't that good. It's just she doesn't have as many as other characters.
Yeah.
I think most have at least 3. I think that's usually the default.
Yeah.
Like, not many at all. And technically, I guess it's 3, but one's just one move with a different input. So.
Well, okay, you'll have to explain that one. What's
okay? There's the 2B, right? And then there's the full crouch 1B, which is the exact same animation, just done from crouch. So like instead of having to do like 2B into like the recover crouch cancel or whatever.
Gotcha, but it's the same move. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, same thing. And then it's also worth mentioning that it breaks an 8 if you do the full string. But again, most people who are familiar with it will either just guard it on block or punish it. So not the best thing, but breaking an 8 isn't so bad for punish. Also, I didn't even know this, but apparently the full crouch 1B version does more damage. So there you go, 10 more damage at 104 with the just frame.
Oh wow.
Yeah, quite a bit. I guess I'll be practicing that as soon as I'm done this podcast.
You just got to do all your crouch dash stuff out of crouch.
Yeah,
all of it.
So yeah, those are the two Brave Edges, and but yeah, for meter use, GI is very, very, very good for this character. Very strong post GI game. Just with DNSB alone, you can mix up like your fast and slow option. You can just do DNSB immediately, and for like the what was it, like 80 something damage, 82 with the just frame, or you can just do delayed for the exact same amount, or you can go for slow option, 4A hold, And I haven't really talked about this move, but it is a very, very strong whiff punish if you can set it up. It is 38 frames, so like not the easiest thing to whiff punish with, obviously, but a very, very good move for it if you can land it. And there are certain circumstances. I actually have a thread for this. I haven't completed the full guide, but some of it is there if people want to check it out. I guess we can include it in the bonus content or
Yes,
afterwards.
supplemental
Yeah,
stuff.
but yeah, this move does crazy damage. It's like her best stun, pretty much. On its own, it does 54 damage and allows you to combo on some characters into 6 BB afterwards, which will give the stun, and then combo into CE for somewhere around 132 damage. So basically, if you have meter and you GI and do this, that's that's a lot of damage.
Yeah.
Without meter, you can do I think it's around just like 103 or something like that by doing 4A or 4A hold A, 3B DNSB, and that'll also ring out. So very, very good tool for whiff punishing. And that move also is her go-to guard break as well for most of her breaks. You can usually go for one that'll break the best and just do that. So that's like her best damage combo.
Yeah, but like you mentioned, like that, I mean, it definitely looks like a move that's like made for post GI. Like,
yeah,
just to
pretty
mess
much.
with people.
Yeah. The bad thing about it is that if they guess on the slow thing, it is a high, so they are able to duck and punish it. That's the one risk with it. But
Now, if you notice somebody doing that, do you ever like throw out the B instead of doing the A? Can you?
I
Do you have
actually
enough
have,
time?
but
Because I say
that's just something you could do by habit. Yeah, like I'm just the way I play. It's just I'm not habited to do that. So, but that's definitely a very legitimate thing to
yeah,
do.
yeah, just you figure just to mess with people.
I mean, some people I play with just guard both options,
Mm,
so it just neutralizes the
yeah,
whole thing.
yeah, that would make it
Because like
pretty
the
easy.
high is minus 17 on block anyways, or not on block. I mean on just guard. So both options are
Pretty bad.
looking pretty grim for you if they get them just guarded. So,
Gotcha.
but yeah, there's that, and um,
So
you
for
can also
you, like before we, kind of move on from the meter man,
yeah.
for you, it sounds like a lot of your meter is either CE if you can get it, like
Mm,
if you have a situation you run into something where it'll hit, or
yeah,
you're just kind of setting up your GIs. And that's about
yeah. That's I'd say that's the majority of the use. I do use a lot of 2B hit confirms into the Brave Edge.
it. Mhm.
It's a very good tool, but for the most part, it will come down to GIs and CE.
Now, does she have a Like, is she pretty good at building meter, or does it build
Um,
slowly?
I don't know if it's just the way I play or the character itself, but I never really have a problem with meter. When I need it, I have it. I find
Gotcha.
she can hold on to it and she builds it fast enough for it to have it when you need it.
But even though she doesn't have the best tools for meter usage, it does sound like at least the way that the character is built, you don't really need it. I mean, even
Yeah.
though you have it, if you do need it,
Mm.
she's not a character that revolves around her.
Yeah, definitely, and that's a really good thing about her. You don't have to rely on the meter so much as other characters, where it's like, okay, I need to make this comeback. I need to have this, like the CE stock, so I can get like a ring out or something like that. She doesn't need to rely on that. It's just like, okay, I have a CE, so that means I can
Cool.
get,
I'm gonna burn
I
it.
can exactly. It's like you want to throw out something minus 13, by all means. Now I can punish it.
Nice. All right. And I'm sorry. I think before I said that, I cut you off, and you were about
Oh,
to say something.
oh shoot, what was I gonna say? Uh, I don't know. I'm sure it'll. If I haven't said it already, it's probably not too important.
Gotcha. Trying to think of what else. What else we need to talk about? Ooh, I was going to ask just in general because you talked a little bit about her lows aren't the best. It's mostly doing playing the guard break game, mixing up mids with grabs, as opposed to doing
Yeah.
lows. Now with that being said, her grabs in general, like, do you find are they just there as as an option, or because you mentioned her Oki game isn't really the
Yeah.
greatest, so are they just there because you have to use them, or does it actually set her up for some pretty
I actually think her throws are very good.
Okay.
Um, Compared to regular Pyrrhas,
Mhm.
I'd say they are better overall, or at least tied.
Okay.
Um,
So
her
why is that then?
her A throw is very good. Actually, I'll say all of her throw damage is very good. Pyrrha's, she loses out on one of her side throws and her back throw. Pyrrha Mega does not have that at all. She gets very good damage off of all of her throws. So starting with her A throw, this one is really good because it sets up a decent Oki situation. Um, and like I mentioned, she doesn't have the greatest Oki, but because it's so like she recovers so fast that it's usually like a mix up, and they'll either have to roll or tech. And some people like to get antsy after you do it, and then they just tech and then eat 6-6B, which I think is it's not exactly a force block, but if you do anything but roll or block, it's going to hit you. So that can sneak up on people. And of course you can just run up and then do a throw again, and it's kind of like a vortex.
Uh,
Some might call it the throw vortex. Some characters have that, but yeah. So her A throw is very good. Her B throw is very interesting because it does 40 damage on its own, but it does have the follow up, which if you get both, I mean you're gonna get the 40 by default, right? But if you get the follow up, it's 65 damage, which is not bad at all. So the thing about this though is that if you don't opt to do the second part, there's a little interesting Oki situation you get here. You're at pretty heavy plus frames after this, so there's not much they can do. On bigger characters, you can do 3B if they want to roll, and then if they're like, oh, I don't want to get hit by this 3B or whatever else, I think there are a few other options. They can tech, and then you can just dash in and throw them again. So it's a little interesting dynamic there. I remember playing around with that a while ago. I kind of do it now. It's pretty staple in my gameplay at this point, but yeah, pretty neat. And then sometimes if you do that enough, people will just forget about the second part, and then you'll just get that free 65 damage.
mm,
And then even if you get the second part, the Oki on that actually isn't so bad. And I guess that's another thing to say about her throws. They're not she doesn't have the best Oki, but her throws set it up in a way that it actually is not that bad just because of the situation. You're at heavy plus frames and you can afford to make all the decisions, and they have to pretty much guess what you're going to do. It's not going to be like the biggest reward, but it's a nice like extra 10 or 20 damage depending on the read you make.
at least it doesn't leave her in a shitty position.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, like if it threw them like full screen or something, that'd be like her throws are garbage.
Yeah.
Because that's like the last place rather this character wants to be, in my opinion.
Gotcha.
But yeah, her left side throw is good. Unlike regular Pyrrha's, hers does like very very little damage compared to this. And then of course her right side throw is like the throat slash one, and that's 70 damage. So you really cannot go wrong with that.
Yeah.
And then again, her back throw, unlike Pyrrha's, actually does damage. Ring outs in reverse. Regular Pyrrha's rings out forward, if I remember right. And then she does have her command throw, which um, her A throw and her A command throw, they're both good. The command throw does more damage, obviously.
Mhm.
Has a smaller break window, if I remember right. And the Oki isn't as good. You're in back turn, but if they want it, depending on what your opponent does, you can hit him with a few back turn moves, or just turn around and then try and throw him again or something like that. But yeah, all very good throws in my opinion.
Excellent. Man, running out of stuff. Oh, well, the only thing other thing on my list here that we usually ask that we haven't gotten to
Yeah.
is you mentioned she's not really a poking character. You mentioned she does have the 1K, and then of course your standard AABB. But does she? Is it like non-existent, or does she like
Oh,
have some stuff that you can still use? I know you mentioned like 2A and 2K earlier, which is pretty generic. Most
yeah,
characters have those.
I wouldn't say she isn't a poke character at all. I just say it's very different from like your traditional, I guess what you'd say a poke character.
Okay.
Like it's just the method that she does it. It's a lot more block situations, like I've mentioned, as opposed to hit level mix-ups like normal Pyrrha would do with her very fast and very good on hit and block. Really, her 1K. Pyrrha Mega is just setting up things on block and then kind of putting up a wall that they have to deal with constantly. But yeah, I wouldn't say she's not a poking character. It's just different from the traditional means, I guess.
It's not your main focus.
Uh, yeah, I guess, yeah. Like,
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, if that's because
it's like she uses her pokes to set up like bigger damage, and like you could say that for all characters, but she really excels at that, I think.
Gotcha.
Because like she gets so much damage if you get a whiff and punish it correctly.
Gotcha. So her poking game is
it complements her bigger
focus.
Yes,
that's exactly the word I was gonna use. Yeah, it complements everything. It's not her main tool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, man, for the most part I have run out of stuff to ask. At least, well, was there anything that's like a major focus for this character, like something that's really important that we haven't discussed, or that you think at least for aspiring Omega players what they should know or what they should be thinking about?
I think it should be said that the character's weakness, at least in my opinion, is being spaced out. That is very crucial for her. She despite having good mid-range and some long-range tools, she can have trouble getting in. She can have some trouble killing backstep despite having DNSB. DNSB. It can be really annoying if the character just backs up because you can't really use your pressure tools so much. Like you can't land 4B if they're standing from full screen and constantly running away from you. It just becomes frustrating. Like she can deal with it, but you have to have a lot of patience to get back in and to be able to run your game.
So is that I guess that isn't a question I've really vocalized yet during the episode. So you that sounds like it's one weakness. Is that like her only weakness, or are there other things that you think she struggles with that at least you have to be mindful of in order to get around it?
I'd say that's one of her, at least for the way I play. I mean, there aren't a lot of Omega players, especially in tournaments in North America, so it's harder to say. But in my experience, that's definitely one of her issues, and that's definitely one of my issues. So that's obviously a big deal to me. But oh shoot, what was I gonna say?
Weaknesses.
Okay, yeah, there we go. Weaknesses. Against some characters, her unsafety can be a problem. She's really, really outclassed in a lot of ways against normal Pyrrha, mainly speed-wise, and the fact that normal Pyrrha can basically do every single thing you want to do except 100% safe, or it's a mix-up. So that's really annoying. That's basically just one matchup. I'd think though. There are a few characters that give her problems, but yeah, Pyrrha can be kind of tough. It's definitely not like unwinnable or anything. It's just you have to make so many correct guesses, and you can't use a lot of the tools the same way that you would against other characters just because of the threat of her stab. And then things like a lot of her step kills, you have to opt out for different ones because her 6/6A is -12. So Pyrrha can punish that with her own AA, and some other characters can do that as well. But that definitely changes a lot against Pyrrha because it's such a simple punish.
Well, I guess to kind of bring the entire discussion together to bring it to a conclusion, since you kind of gave me the doorway there, where like against the rest of the cast, I mean, based on what you just said, I can only presume that you think that Pyrrha is a better character than Omega, but like grand scheme, I hate using the word tier list, but that's what we're so used to. So like where would you like put her? How do you think she does?
Well, first I'll say I don't think Pyrrha is necessarily a better character. I think just in that matchup alone, just the fact that some of her moves become unsafe suddenly, a lot of tools that she relies on, and just Pyrrha's sheer speed, and the fact they have to guess a lot to really open her up and get big damage, it's just a unfavorable matchup for her. Not by too much. I'd say like maybe like a 6/4 or something like that. Nothing too huge, but definitely in her favor in my opinion. But in the grand scheme of things, I'm not too big of a fan of tier lists, especially in this game. A lot of the cast is just so versatile, and really, I think pretty much every character can compete to some degree. But if I had to do it, I definitely say that she's up there. In theory, like pure theory, I think she could be top 5
Mhm.
or absolutely close. But since it's since theory is impossible to actually make real,
Put into practice. Yeah.
yeah, I'd say she's definitely in top 10, and very close to the top 5 in my opinion.
I do want to ask, just to kind of add on to that, and this doesn't have to do with Omega specifically, but
Yeah.
since you, I know that just based on the other stuff that I've seen and listened
Mhm.
to with you, and I know you get into the conversations, the theories.
Yeah.
I don't want to say theory fighting, but just kind of the general discussion,
Mhm.
of how matchups work and all that. So I wanted to ask, like, when it comes to tiers, you said just a moment ago that you absolutely hate tier listings and stuff. So I want to get your opinion on like how you view matchups. And I was thinking about this, because Evo just happened over this
Yeah.
last weekend, and there are certain games and certain players like Street Fighter comes to mind immediately, where it's very much, it's not so much about tiers as it is matchup
Oh
knowledge.
yeah, definitely.
And character, or not characters, top players will have a core set of characters that they play just for that purpose. So if they
Mhm.
run into this character, even though they might have a quote unquote main, they in
Have
reality
this
they have,
backup character.
yeah, they have like 3 or 4, just in case, like, okay, this my main is going to struggle against these characters, so I need to have an answer for that. Now, when it comes to caliber, and I guess just in fighting games in general, do you think like, how are you, like, more of a purist where you think everyone should be a character specialist, or how do you see that?
I mean, I'm not gonna like, I'm not gonna dog anybody for being like, oh, you counter picker or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, like I'll say right now, just like do what works for you.
Mhm.
I mean, like the way I like to play, I like to stick with my guns. I believe in myself and I believe in my character, and that's how I see the game. I mean, I'll play around with other characters all the time. I mean, it's fun for me to do that. I kind of despise playing online, so to kind of ease myself out of that, I'll use not my main. So if I lose, I won't be extremely salty, only a little bit.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I definitely think that each style, as in like being like the character specialist or being like the jack of all trades, they both have their ups and downs. But it depends on the player and what they're doing. Most of all, I mean, like some characters are obviously going to be much better than others, so there are other factors at play. But as far as the whole, like I said, the whole style between the jack of all trades and the character specialist, um, really the player distinguishes between that. It's not going to be, oh, definitely the jack of all trades is going to be better just because they're the best or whatever. Like it really it takes the player to bring out one or the other, I'd say.
Interesting. Yeah, I asked just because, like I said, you're watching Evo over this past weekend, and unfortunately, I had to work all weekend, so I didn't get to watch nearly as much as I wanted. But yeah, I know, like, a lot of people get, I don't want to say salty, but they, like, you can just sense that people give more respect to the players that stick to their guns and they
Yeah.
stick to that one character,
Yeah.
as opposed to characters who, well, like you said, counterpick, or
Yeah.
players that counterpick. So,
Exactly.
but I always thought it was an interesting argument, because it's one that you don't hear it very often, but it pops up every now and then
Yeah.
in the fighting game community, where people will argue. It's like, no, it should be. And I mean, hell, you even look at the rules that we have for tournaments, where the winner
Mhm.
has to stick with that character.
It's locked. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of all feeds into that dynamic. I always yeah, just think it's interesting listening and reading people's
Yeah.
opinions
And then
about
it doesn't
that.
come up too much in 3D games either.
Yeah.
It's definitely a much bigger thing in 2D games. They just seem much more matchup heavy. Just I get maybe it's because of the lack of like generic mechanics.
Mhm.
Like Caliber has like Just Guard, GI, things like that that allow leeway in matchups where it's like, oh, Astaroth normally wouldn't win this because he's locked down by this character or something, but now he has Just Guards and GI, so now he can open them up and play his game again, as opposed to just being, locked down. Where, like, in Street Fighter or something, like, you look at, like, Zangief or something like that, and it's like, the amount of work he has to put in some matchup is just like, how can you do this? It's just so crazy.
Mhm.
It's such a huge difference between 3D and 2D.
Yeah, I just think like just generally speaking, like it's a really it's a unique aspect to. I mean, I guess fighting games specifically, but just kind of gaming. Like you look at other. I mean, I guess you can say sports, but even other games. Like uh, what's a good example? I guess sports is probably the best example. Like you don't really, you sort of see it sometimes, but there's not. I don't know. It's just like a weird aspect of video games where you have all these options to play with. It's not like
Yeah.
in baseball where everyone you can pick your steel bat or your aluminum bat or you can go with a hollow wooden bat. It's not like that. Like you
not
can't
look
do
down
that.
for using the wooden
Yeah,
batters.
yeah. Like there's a core set of rules, and you have this parameter, that you have to work within. And it's not like that with fighting games. You have all these options that are open to you, and really the only thing that, at least for the fighting game community, we're really good about keeping the bans to a minimum. So you're mostly whatever the game allows you to do.
Exactly.
You can do it. So
have that freedom. Yep.
Yeah, but well, anyway, yeah, that was excellent discussion with Omega. Hopefully, it learned some folks out there. So with that, the last little segments of the episode. Now I know you said you had some. I don't know if it was information or stuff about like ECT or the upcoming Philly events that you wanted to talk about or pass on.
I guess I'll talk a little bit about the upcoming events. I know I'll be doing a write up at some point about exactly what's going on in the future with this game and the tournament scene. So I guess the next big tournament. I mean, Evo just happened this past weekend. I'm sure videos will be available soon to those who haven't seen them. Definitely check those out. They'll be all over the place. You won't have any problem finding them if you're on 8-Way Run.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, the next big tournament should be Summer Jam, which is I think like pretty much a month from now. Let's look at my calendar. Yeah, I think it's like the 17th of August, something like that. But yeah, that's like the next big one. That of course is in Philly. So yeah, definitely go to that if you can. After that, there are just so many events coming up in that region too. Let me just pull up the events page because like there's just so many. Okay, so then after that, again, Summer Jam is in August. Let's see here. The next one is the Fall Classic in Raleigh, North Carolina, and that is September 14th and 15th.
TFC.
Yep. And of course, Caliber will be there, so if you can support that event, definitely show up. And then after that, we have in October, pretty much just month after month, just events going on all the time. We have the Filthy Cup, which Soul Calibur was recently added to. So there's that, and that is taking place in Philadelphia as well. And the date for that is October 26th. I'm not sure if it's just the one day or the whole weekend, but right here it's just saying October 26th. And then after that, or maybe before, I can't remember, there was a tournament that wasn't on the East Coast for once. And then MKL, he was on the last podcast, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He has been talking about an event in Nebraska. Lincoln's the city, I guess. And the tournament is Midland Warfare. That is October 12th. That weekend, I think. And that actually has a $300 pop bonus for Caliber. So if you're not quite on the East Coast or you're looking to travel, maybe make a bit of money in Caliber, that is, I believe, Central USA. I'm not too brushed up on my American geography, unfortunately.
It's actually just a few hours west of me.
Okay.
Where I am. So, yep, it's right on the, well, not right on, but near the border, the eastern border of Nebraska. So, yep, very much in the middle of fucking nothing. But hey, it's cheap. I'll tell everybody that if you depending if you can find a good deal on flights, pretty much everywhere in the Midwest outside of Chicago is dirt cheap. Hotels are dirt cheap, food is dirt cheap, everything's dirt cheep. So
That's definitely good to know.
yeah.
Sounds like a great spot for gamers to travel to.
And we're pretty good. Like whenever we do events here in Cedar Rapids where I am, like we can house people. We do house a bunch of people, as many as we can, but like it's usually not a problem at all for people to find hotels. Fucking $20 a night, no matter where you go. And you just cram 10 plus people into one room. It's pretty cheap. So
no excuse if it's $20 a night. I mean, just save up your allowance or whatever. Pick up quarters for a month, and there you go. You can afford this tournament.
Yeah, split it with a few people. You're good to go. So excellent. Well, since you've been on the podcast a couple times, we can kind of skip the rant section. So I don't know if there's if there's any shout outs you want to do. Usually on the airwaves somewhere.
I'll give my few just because they are demanded. Okay. But before I get into that, there is that tournament. Definitely go out to it if you can. And then November, I believe there's nothing going on. And then there's NEC back in Philly at the end of the year, and that's always a huge tournament for Caliber. So definitely plan for that one if you're interested in coming out. And there you go. As for shoutouts, I'll start off with the classic. Shoutouts a great one. You cannot do anything without shouting this man out. He loves it, and he is an absolutely fantastic figure in this community. Does so much for so many people. Always supports when he can. He's just a great guy. Besides that, shout outs to the usuals I hang out. I don't really have to name you guys, but you know who you are. I want to shout out everybody involved with Evo this past weekend. Tomahawk, Alex J, Kemi, Commando, SoCal, I believe, for organizing the Soul Calibur side event at Evo, and also I guess Mad Cats and IE Battlegrounds for all putting that together. It looked like a fantastic event. I only wish it was announced sooner so we could have gotten even more people out, but all things considered, it did great. So yeah, props to you guys. And I guess the last shout out I'll give is just everybody watching this. I hope you learned a little bit. Pyrrha is a fantastic character. I love playing her. So thanks for tuning in.
I was going to ask real quick before I put the kibosh on everything. Are you? I haven't heard anything about the SC tier podcast. I know you put up some videos from random tournaments and stuff. But are you going to continue doing that, or is that just you just felt like doing a couple episodes? Or
the thing with that is that we were doing them for a while, and then Zeph, who was a huge part of it, shout out to him as well. Is dealing with a lot of other stuff right now, so that was a huge driving force. But we did continue for a bit, and then there was a lot of stupid drama that went on, and then kind of further halted things. But
it's a shame.
We're kind of building things back. I'm streaming a lot. We might start doing live podcasts at some point. I mean, we talk about everything while I'm streaming anyway, so we may as well actually do something relevant and kill two birds with one stone there. But definitely, I'm planning to bring things back with the podcast, and I definitely hope it goes well.
Excellent. All right, then. Well, that's all I got, man. So if you don't have anything else, then we'll call that a day. Thank you for coming on the podcast, of course, talking some Omega, and
Pleasure.
To echo your statements, hopefully people out there learn something. Pick up this character. It's always sad to see under even if the characters were godlike, it's still sad to see characters go underrepresented. So pick up Omega, start playing with her so we can see those matches and whatnot. But anyway, thank you everyone for listening. As normal, we're working our way through this character list. Only got a few left, and not sure who's going to be next, but we'll get to them. I promise we'll get to everybody. So thank you again, Partisan, for coming on. Thank you everyone for listening, and we shall catch you next time.
Thanks everybody.